For the high school preview show presented by Gold Athletics. I am your host, John Sarianides, and as always, I'm joined by my two partners, Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. Gents, how are we doing this evening?
Doing great. Ready for another week of another slate.
You know, it's interesting because I feel like we say this all the time, at least Kevin Stone and I, on our other show, the Monday night show that we do, the New England Football Show. We always talk about how fast the season is going by. And it can be a repetitive thing because I feel like we say it every week. But it is hard to believe that this is already week 4 of the high school football season. We're at the end of September. It's crazy that we're already here. And, like I said, we talk about this all the time about how fast the season goes by. But it really does go by quick. I mean, here we are now. We're already essentially a month into the regular season. It is hard to believe. Now, before we start the conversation here, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to let you know that if you are a coach who's looking for a fundraiser that is an effective fundraiser both for your program and your community, then Gold Athletics probably has that fundraiser for you. Matt Ross and his team have a variety of fundraisers that can fit your program and your community and can make you a lot of money to help your program. If you're interested in talking to either Matt or one of his sales associates, visit goldathletics.com today for more information. They will get you started. They will find that fundraiser that fits your program, and your players will be off and running when it comes to raising money for your program. Again, visit goldathletics.com today for more information. All right, gentlemen, another great slate. We're going to start here in Massachusetts. Probably the biggest game of the week in Massachusetts. Springfield Central at Xaverian, heavyweight fight. Two programs that are very familiar with each other, especially the last couple of years. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this Division I showdown playing out?
Well, I'll say like Springfield Central, everyone knows about the offense, and they were able to put up 30 on St. John's Prep and just lost on a 2-point conversion to them. But for them to go to Mansfield and hold that team, a lot of skill on that Mansfield team to hold them to 3 points, super impressive. I think that's one of the more impressive results of the season to this point. I think Mansfield's a legitimate top 15 team in the state. So it looks like that bye week was, Springfield Central was able to work some things out on the defensive end. I expect that to continue. I think this game might be a little bit lower scoring than we've seen in the past, where they've played in the 30s and sometimes into the 40s. I think this one might be played in the 20s here, but it's going to be a back and forth affair. Again, we have Xaverian ranked number 1. We have Springfield Central ranked number 4, so it's really tough to get a better matchup than this. A lot of skill on display. I think it's going to come down to the final possession either way. I lean Xaverian at this point. Xaverian's won so many close games in the past few years. Al Fernaro has done a great job. Will Wood makes plays when it counts. I like Xaverian here, but I think it's going to be something like 27-24 in that range.
Yeah, this is one of those games everybody had circled on their calendars. You got the big quarterback matchups with both guys in the class of 2027 with Jared Stain and Will Wood, two of the best quarterbacks in the state. Isaiah Rogers, one of the best playmakers in the state. Chris McIntyre, who had a big game against Everett last week for Xaverian. So playmakers all around, but Springfield Central has had their numbers, minus that one game where that was Xaverian won when it counted in a playoff game a couple of years back. It's been Springfield Central that's been dominating this series so far. I mean, I think Xaverian went out there last year, and Springfield Central got they pretty much handled them last year when they went out there. So it's like Tyler said, it's probably going to come down to a one possession game, but I think Springfield Central has like mental lapse on them because they've kind of controlled this series for a better part. Minus that one game that Xaverian won, which, Xaverian's defense stepped up in that game. It was 21-20, I think was the final score in that one, something like that. So I think this might be a little bit similar to that, but I'm leaning towards Springfield Central with a close win.
Yeah, it should be a great matchup. And as you mentioned, McCall, the quarterback matchup here is fantastic with Jared Stain versus Will Wood. Two of the top signal callers in New England. Next up, we're going to stay in the Catholic Conference. We have St. John's Prep and LaSalle. LaSalle coming off a tough loss to North Kingstown. Meanwhile, St. John's Prep beating Central Catholic rather handily. I think we all thought that game was going to be a lot closer than it ended up being. but a big win for St. John's Prep, a statement win nonetheless. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. You got a chance to see this LaSalle team a couple weeks ago at BC High. Yeah. Can they play with this St. John's Prep team that right now is rolling early on? You can make an argument that they may actually be the favorite in D1, given the way they're playing. They're playing some really strong football right now.
Yeah, and their defense has vastly improved since the Springfield Central game. I mean, last week they, Central Catholic, everything that could go wrong for them went wrong for them in that first quarter. St. John's Prep, first possession of the game, they marched right down the field. Chris Vargas was 3 or 4. Then made the touchdown pass. Special teams forces a turnover. Defense forces a turnover. You get down 23-0. So their defense has been really, really impressive the last 2 weeks. And also their offense, back-to-back games, a 40 points against Marshfield, 47 against Marshfield, 42 or something like that against Marshfield, 47 against Central Catholic. So all around, they're playing really well, and they're getting better. They haven't even played their best yet because this is still a very, very, very young team. So they're playing better. So this is going to be a tough task for LaSalle. Vargas in that offense really is rolling, and when he's not passing the ball, he has 2 running backs that can really break off a big run. So I think the firepower St. John's have going into LaSalle, I think is going to be a little bit too much for LaSalle in this one. I got the Eagles coming out with the win.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this one pretty brief. LaSalle, they were tested by BC High, and that was a very good game. And last year, I think BC High and St. John's Prep were on pretty similar ground. They were on like that same level, same tier in Division One. I don't think that's the case this year. BC High is replacing a lot of pieces. I think St. John's Prep's just a different animal. We saw, I mean, it sounds crazy because Christopher Vargas has had so much hype around him since the time he entered St. John's Prep, even as an 8th grader before he even stepped on the varsity field. But I think last week was really, kind of that breakout game, the coming out party. He dominated a very good Central Catholic team. I expect that to continue now throughout the season. And then Mukala, you mentioned the running back duo, Jordan Toribio, who's in year 2 as a starter now, Maxwell Parent, the St. Mary's transfer. They complement each other really well. This St. John's Prep team, the offense is impressive, and I think they're going to roll in this one against LaSalle.
Yeah, like I said, LaSalle's coming off a tough loss to North Kingstown last week, kind of stymied a little bit of their momentum. And, of course, they've got a tough two-game stretch here. You got the Prep this week, and then they have the rivalry game next week against Bishop Hendricken. So Dan Copen's going to find out a lot about his football team in these next 2 weeks. A couple of years ago, they hung around for a half when Jeff Marcone was the coach there. Last year, the game wasn't as competitive. It's hard to say whether or not it'll be competitive this year. Again, had LaSalle won last week, they'd be coming in with some momentum. But it really is, right now, very hard to pick against this Prep team. They are legit. Next up, we have Natick at Milford, in what should be a really good game. Both of these teams, of course, coming in undefeated. Milford coming in off a big win over Wellesley last week, so they've already gotten a taste of the Bay State League. Tyler, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think we're gonna. Let me just check the. So we're gonna talk about back-to-back games here that are gonna, I think, play out pretty similarly. 2 teams that play really physical, or 4 teams that play really physical football, want to run the ball, play good defense. I think that this is going to be a really physical, competitive game. It's going to feel like a playoff game, I think. It's the first like real test, I would say, for Natick to this point. They've kind of dominated their 3 games so far to this point. Milford has 2 very impressive wins, going to Leominster, going to Wellesley in back-to-back weeks, and really putting themselves squarely in that Division III title hunt. I think this is like arguably the game of the week. I mean, it's right up there with, or maybe just below Springfield Central and Zavarian. It's gonna be a really fun game. I think I lean Milford right now by a field goal, something like 20-17. I would expect something, right around 40 or just under 40 points to be scored in this one. Again, going to be very physical, but I lean Milford here. Again, something like 20-17.
Yeah, Milford, just these first 2 weeks, they've been really impressive. Natick has been too, but I think Milford just been a little bit more impressive, especially going on the road and winning those games. I mean, they set the tone with the win over Leominster, and I think coming home, having their home opener riding this wave right now. I think they're going to be up for the physicality that Natick does bring. Um, whoever whoever commits the least turnovers is most likely is going to win this game. I just think Milford is probably going to outlast them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Natick is really good up front. Of course, you have Michael Whalen, one of the best linemen in Massachusetts, one of the best linemen in New England, the Buffalo commit. He's tough to block one-on-one. Milford's going to have their hands full with him. But I think you both bring up a good point, and Tyler, I know you alluded to this. Has Natick been tested up until this point? We're going to get a pretty good view of just how good this Natick team really is in the next 2 weeks. They play at Milford on Friday night. King Philip comes to town next Friday night. So I think we're going to get a pretty good idea of where Natick falls in that Division I playoff landscape. Speaking of King Philip, that's the next game. King Philip visits Foxborough Friday night, one of the best rivalry games in the Hockomock League, a game that is always, as I like to put it, a fist fight in a phone booth between two teams that are good up front this year, return senior-laden lines on both sides of the ball. This will be one of those classic matchups. Tyler, you said this in the preview, probably a low-scoring affair, back-and-forth game that's going to come down to a couple plays in the fourth quarter to decide it. King Philip has had Foxborough's number through the years, especially in recent years, but that goes out the window. This Foxborough team, once again, is a very talented group amongst the favorites in D5. This should be a terrific matchup between two schools that have a long history of playing each other. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is one of those, you're not too sure who you want to pick just because of just how these teams are built and just the history between these two teams. King Philip, we all know the physical, the running game, that O-line. We know what they like to bring Foxborough. They're trying to get back to Gillette. they're trying to get back to Gillette, and this would, a win like this would definitely boost their confidence. This is a tough one to pick, but I think I'm gonna lean with 14-10, like 14-10 Foxborough.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'll be there on Friday night covering this one. Really looking forward to it. This is the first time I've covered a KP Foxborough game, so I'm really looking forward to it. But first off, shout out to Jack Martinelli, legendary Foxborough coach, passing Armand Colombo on the all-time wins list, now number 3 all-time in state history. He's a legend, and he's still going strong, and Foxborough looks as good as ever right now. So just a great milestone for him. As far as the game goes, we know what to expect. It's going to be a lot of physicality. The game will probably be over 90 minutes because there's not going to be many passes attempted. It's just a great test for both of these teams. I think, KP and Foxborough, KP being in D3, Foxborough being in D5, both teams have real legitimate title aspirations this year. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see both of these teams at Gillette Stadium in a couple months. So I lean KP here. Just tough to bet against KP in big games. I think your score is probably right, Mukala, something like that, 14-10. I'm just on the opposite side of it. I have KP winning the game.
And I'm going to recuse myself from this one because I will be coaching in the game. So on the King Philip side, so I will, refrain from making predictions here. Mike checks in. Did you guys talk about D2 yet? Well, we're going to get into some D2 talk here. We've got some D2 games that we're previewing this week. So yeah, Mike, I think we'll get some D2 talk in. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for watching, man. We really do appreciate it. All right, next up we have one of the premier interstate matchups on the schedule this fall. I had this game circled back when it was scheduled in the spring. I'm excited to see how these two programs stack up against each other. This game's going to be played on Saturday afternoon. Bishop Hendricken out of Rhode Island, the preeminent power in Rhode Island, coming north to Massachusetts to take on Central Catholic, and what I think is going to be a fantastic matchup between two teams that I think are pretty evenly matched. I think when you look at Hendricken, they're not as strong as they've been the last couple of years, but as we've seen, they've been able to take care of business in state. Ran into a buzzsaw in Killingly a couple of weeks ago. Central Catholic obviously got off to a strong start first couple of weeks, had some of the wind taken out of their sails last week, but this is a big bounce back game for John Sexton's team. This should be a really good game. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. How do you see this one playing out? Can Central Catholic bounce back? This is a tough bounce back game for them against a very good Hendricken program.
Yeah, I will be at this one on Saturday afternoon. This is definitely a tough bounce back game, but I think for Central Catholic, if they look back at the game, the film against St. John's Prep, it was one of those things where it's just like everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong for them. Their first offensive possession of the game, they did march down the field. They converted a fake punt. They were in the red zone, but before they turned over on downs, and then after that was the only promising drive they had the entire game. And I think after that drive stalled, I think everything just didn't go well for them. But I still believe in this team. This team has way too much talent. I believe Caden Chase, I think he needs to be featured a lot more. He wasn't featured that much last week. I think the more they feature him, the higher their chances are of winning. He's a really strong running back. I still believe in Caden Smith and Drew O'Keefe, those playmakers they have. Bishop Hendricken, they're coming off a 34-0 win over Cumberland, correct?
Yeah. Bounce back after that Killingly game. Impressive win. Cumberland, of course, had the coaching change. They host Reading this week, but it's a big win for them. I mean, look, in-state Hendricken is Hendricken.
Right.
They have proven they had a tough win earlier in the year against North Kingstown. In-state, they've held their own. They're still the team to beat in-state, but this should be a pretty good matchup for them.
Yeah, definitely not. I think getting that win, good momentum heading to Central Catholic. Central Catholic kind of have their backs on the walls right now because they got Zavarian coming to town next week. So you don't want to fall to 1-3 on the season the way the schedule, the way these rankings are. So I think Central Catholic is going to bounce back. This probably will be a close game throughout, and I just think Central Catholic will pull away in the fourth quarter. But we got to see a lot more of Caden Chase in that running game.
Yeah, I mean, every week we talk about Central Catholic and how difficult the schedule is, and they're only going to be battle tested, or they're going to be as battle tested as any team in the state come November. Just another tough test. Mukala mentioned they have Zavarian next week. They're coming off that tough loss. I expect them to rebound here. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I really like the way Hendricken rebounded coming off that loss to Killingly to shout out a good Cumberland team, 34-0. John, you mentioned the coaching change, but still one of the better public schools in Rhode Island. So that was a nice win for Hendricken last week. I think this is another one that could be another one possession game. I think some points will be scored, 35-28. I could see it playing out something like that. I think I lean Central Catholic, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Hendricken pull this one out.
Yeah, they play physical, man. Keith Croft always has his teams play physical. They can run the football. They play good defense. They had an impressive win last week. You mentioned it, Cumberland, one of the better public school programs in Rhode Island. They've definitely bounced back after that loss a couple of weeks ago. And this is kind of a swing game to me because Central Catholic they've played a really tough schedule up until this point, but they're still young in a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys that are maturing before our eyes respond this week because you got the X coming to town next week. You need to acquit yourself well in this one. All right, we're going to go up to, I don't know, is it North Shore and Merrimack Valley? Somewhere north of here, we'll call it. But Masco and Winchester, a matchup between Division II Winchester and Division III Masco. Masco, one of those programs in Division III that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but they should. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Pretty intriguing matchup here. Winchester's been very good the last couple of years. They've been in the mix in Division II. They look to be in the mix again this year. This should be one of the better games on the slate this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. We have it in the New England Football Journal, top 25. We have it as a ranked versus ranked matchup. Listen, I think Masco, they caught my attention at first last year when they beat Bill Ricca. And I started, asking around and looking more into their team, and they had a lot of juniors returning. So they have a ton of guys that have experience and have a game of playoff experience that are returning this year. This is one of the better running back matchups in the state that you're going to find this year with DePremio on Winchester and then Jack Fabiano on Masco. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to play out like a pretty low scoring game, something like 21-17. Again, I think this is one that either team could very easily win. I'm going to go with Winchester here. I think it's really going to be one of the better games of the weekend. I lean Winchester, but I think it's going to be one hell of a game. Again, probably going to see some physicality in this, but also mixed with a lot of skill. But I lean Winchester here, and I think if they win this one, and if they do win it convincingly, I think you can make the case that they could be the second most impressive team in September in Division Two after CM.
Man, Masco is putting up a lot of points. They are putting up a lot of points as I looked here. 41, 38, 43. These are all on the road too. They haven't played a home game yet. So doing all this on the road is impressive enough. They went up to North Andover and they handled them pretty well. This Masco team, as you said, they're a team to watch, especially down the road in the season. I think that continues. The way they've looked these first 3 weeks has been really good, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And their defense is playing really well too. I mean, 22 points is the most they've allowed. They had 7 points week 1, so I think Masco is going to come out with a victory and go 4-0.
All right, next up we have an M&M matchup. We have Mansfield coming off a tough 28-3 loss to Springfield Central. They will head down to Marshfield, who's struggled out of the gates. Chris Aruka's team is young. This is always a pretty good matchup. It has been at least the last couple of years. Mansfield's coming in a little banged up, so that's going to be something to monitor in this game. But nonetheless, should be a pretty good matchup between two teams that have played back and forth, nip and tuck type of games the last 2 years. Mukala, I'm going to start with you here. What are your thoughts on this one? As I mentioned, Mansfield is coming into this game a little banged up.
Yeah.
Can they go down to Marshfield and win a place that has traditionally been tough on the visiting team? Can the Hornets go down there, take care of business, and bounce back after a tough loss last week?
Right, coming off the loss to Springfield Central, kind of like takes the air out of the balloon a little bit, and then you're going up against a very high tempo team, high paced team. They're at home, so I think Marshfield was trying to string together some wins right now to get themselves back, back to 500. So. I think it's one of those games, like you said, it's a rivalry game. These two teams are very familiar with each other, so it could go anywhere, any type of way, depending on no matter who's on the field. But I think Marshfield is going to come out with the win in this one. I think they need to win.
Yeah, with the realignment this year, these are two teams that could meet again. We've been talking a lot about Division III over the first month of this show, and one team that we don't really mention much is Marshfield. Marshfield's another team here in Division III. I think everyone knows how I feel about Chris Aruka in that offense. He's going to have those guys ready to go come playoff time in November. Again, this is another team that's played a challenging schedule, went up to Methuen and lost, ran into an absolute buzzsaw in St. John's Prep Week 2. Had a very nice win last week against a good BR team. I think that Mansfield team is going to be hungry, though, after how last week went. Again, you mentioned that the nip and tuck of these affairs in the past couple of years, and I think this is going to play out pretty similarly. I think 21-14, maybe even 20-17, something like that. But I lean toward the Hornets here.
Yeah, should be a good one. All right, we're going to go back north of the city here again. This time, Bishop Feion visits St. Mary's, and what has become a nice little rivalry here since Bishop Feion joined the what I like to call the small Catholic League. But this should be a really good matchup here between two programs that are well coached. Brian Pinnabell at Bishop Feion, Coach Driscoll at St. Mary's. St. Mary's always flies under the radar, but Coach Driscoll's done a great job year in and year out since he took over the program, keeping them competitive. This year is no different. This has been a tough matchup for Bishop Feion through the years since they've been in the league. Is this the year that Brian Pinnabell's team, and he's got a very good team, when you look at what they have back, is this the year that the Shamrocks go on the road and take care of business against the Spartans? Mukala, I'm going to start with you again. That is your neck of the woods there. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Is this the year that Bishop Feion can knock off St. Mary's?
I don't think this is going to be the year. St. Mary's, although they're coming off a loss to Gloucester, 3-0 start for Gloucester, very, very physical. It was a physical game. Gloucester got off to a 14-0 lead on them. The Spartans had their moments. They had some big plays, but they just couldn't overcome that early deficit, try to get the win. So they got their quarterback back. Yanil Balliard, he came back. He suffered a shoulder injury. I think it was like the first play of the game or so in week 1. but he didn't play week 2. And he came back. He threw a touchdown pass. They have 3 running backs who could really all explode for big touchdown runs. Tyron Hunt, he had a 70-yard touchdown run against Gloucester. Jimmy Jennings, the speedster, he's a track star as well. I think he's on the relay team for St. Mary's spring track and field team. And then Rowan Merriman, the big bruiser. So when they get that big lead on you, they go to that running game to kill that clock. So I think the Spartans are going to bounce back in this one to get the win. I just feel like this team is one of those teams we're going to potentially see at Gillette this year. That's how much talent they have on their roster.
Yeah, I mean, I considered St. Mary's sort of a D5 contender this year. D5's very good at the top. Shawsheen, Foxborough, Hanover.
Mm-hmm.
I thought St. Mary's could have been that 4th team. They still might be that 4th team. I think they were definitely looking ahead to this one. Gloucester's good, but I expected St. Mary's to win that game last week. So I think St. Mary's was looking ahead to Fian and got tripped up by Gloucester. But Mukala, you talked about all the skill that St. Mary's has, all that speed. I think they're going to struggle with the physicality, led by the recent Ole Miss commit Kay Menkins up front for Fian. I think the Shamrocks are just going to be too physical here. St. Mary's might be able to keep it close for a half, but I think Fian's really going to wear them down in the second half and pull away in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, Fian, look, I mean, if Fian is in any other division, and again, it's not to say anything is possible, but they're in D2 with CM, and we know what that means, okay? But the reality is, if they're in any other division, I think that we're having a much broader conversation about them. I think some people are discounting the fact that, they're in D2, and I think a lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, they might contend, they could get to Gillette, but then we know what they could potentially run into. But you bring up a good point, Tyler. I think their physicality, the way they play, the way they run the football, I think that matches up well against a team like St. Mary's. And so I think Fian's going to be a tough out for St. Mary's. Can they match up front? We'll find out pretty early on in this one. Should be a good one nonetheless. But I agree with you, Tyler. I think that St. Mary's, I think they're skilled. I think Fian's physicality could prove to be too much. Mike checks back in. He says, good running backs at Fian. Fian's always had good backs. They do, again, they've always run the football and played a certain style there. You are watching the high school preview show presented by Gold Athletics. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partners, Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo. We do want to remind you, we are brought to you both by Gold Athletics. Visit goldathletics.com today for more information on how you can get started on fundraising for your program and make money. All right, next up, we have another interstate matchup here. We have Reading at Cumberland, both schools coming off tough losses. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Thoughts on this one? These two teams have played a pretty good game last year. They've played each other the last couple of years. I expect this one to be another tight matchup here between two programs that need to bounce back after losing last week.
Yeah, I think, Reading that loss kind of caught me by surprise. Danvers is yet another team to watch out here for D5. They're off to a 3-0 start, and that was an impressive win over Reading. I think Reading's probably the better team. But again, this is a tough road trip on a Friday afternoon to make down to Cumberland, Rhode Island. So I think that, that they could shake off some rust early in this game. I think they ultimately will pull away, though. Guys like Dom Pate, Will Shoot have played well. Even in the loss last week to Danvers, they played well in that game. So I think Reading has a bit more talent right now. I lean Rockets 28-20, something like that, 28-17, maybe something like that. But it should be a pretty competitive game and another fun Massachusetts-Rhode Island crossover. But give me Reading.
Yeah, Reading has no problem putting up points. 30 points in both of their games this season. Win one, lose one. You're right about that. That drive is probably going to do something to them that first quarter. It'll probably take them a quarter or so to just get into the game, because traveling to Reading all the way down there it's going to take a toll on the players as well. So they'll take a little bit of time to get in there. But I think in the end we're going to see another 30-point performance from Reading, and I think they'll just come out with the win in this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, Cumberland had a coaching change over the summer. That takes some getting used to. But this Reading team, as you guys mentioned, they've scored points so far this season. Don't let last week fool you. This is a program that traditionally always scores points. Cumberland will get theirs, but I agree with you. I think this is a game Reading wins, and I think they probably win it by a score, 3 to 7 points. I think it'll be close, but I do think Reading is the better team, and I think that proves to be the difference. Next up, we have a Central Mass, Western Mass matchup. Wachusett at Minneshaug. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. It should be a pretty intriguing matchup. It's a matchup where we could potentially see a lot of points.
Yeah, I think we will. Again, these are two, I mentioned in the preview, two of the most consistent programs. West of 495, consistent program, consistent playoff teams. I think Wachusett's the better team this year, led by quarterback Thomas Anderson. He's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the state, and I think Wachusett's sort of a team that's flying under the radar. I'm not sure like how much noise they'll make in the Division I playoffs, but as a team that's probably going to be in like the 8 to 10 seed range, they could win a game when they get there. I think they're going to be a team that nobody wants to play and a tough offense to contain for whoever meets up with them down the road in Division I. But the Mountaineers, they always have a good program and they always have a good offense. That's going to continue this year. I think Wachusett wins at 35-21.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule right now. If Minnetonka want to win this game, they better think if they catch Wachusett's looking ahead because they do have Leominster in a week. So that might be one of those things. They might overlook their opponent and look ahead. So that might play a factor. Or Wachusett could be focused on the task at hand in preparation for next week's matchup with Leominster. So, but as Tyler said, Wachusett is a really good team. They're gonna make some noise in Division I. Not sure how far they get, but I know they're gonna give teams some issues, whoever they end up playing down the road. But so I think Wachusett is gonna be very focused on this game, so they don't overlook their opponents, so they could have some momentum going in next week when they take on Leominster. So Wachusett is gonna come out with the win in this one.
Yeah, we keep trying to find teams in Division I that could potentially break into the top 5. There, of course, we have Xaverian, we have St. John's Prep, we have Springfield Central. Wachusett is another team that's in that conversation, along with Natick and a couple of other programs. So, team to keep an eye on. You guys said it. They're a team that, come playoff time, could potentially be a tough out. Next up, we have Bishop Fenwick at Gloucester. Gloucester, one of the pleasant surprises thus far this season. The Fishermen are 3-0, and look, they were a dominant program years ago. I remember when I'd watch them play when Paul Ingram was there as the coach. They haven't gotten off to a 3-0 start in a long time, but this is a really good start for this Gloucester football program, a program that, by the way, is probably now starting to garner enough attention that we could start considering them, I should say, as a potential contender in Division V. Mukala, this is an interesting matchup because Fenwick has been good in recent years. Yeah. Gloucester is now starting to get the wind under their sails again, if you will, no pun intended. Right. Should be a pretty good matchup here. People should start paying attention to this Gloucester team. They're pretty good.
And I think Gloucester, they brought back some folks that helped build the program up. I believe one of the assistants who stepped away and didn't come back. I forget his name, but I was reading that he stepped away and he came back to help get the program back to what it was, and it's starting to pay off. He's got a lot of these kids. I mean, he's been working them out since I think since they were in middle school or something like that. It was the core of this team, and they brought back some alums who were part of those teams that were on that dominant run that they had. So looks like they're slowly trying to get back to what Gloucester football is. And 3-0 start. They played physical against St. Mary's. Their defense played well. Offense made some big runs. And overall, it was a great game for them against the Spartans in the non-league matchup. Got another non-league matchup with Fenwick. I think the physicality again is going to overwhelm Fenwick, and I think that running game is going to take its toll on Fenwick, and Gloucester. We'll see Gloucester move to 4-0.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a physical game. I saw just a little bit, a little over a quarter of Falmouth, Gloucester's win over Falmouth a few weeks ago, and they have a really impressive running game. Joe Allen, Thomas Curbs, impressive players. They have a good sized line for a Division V school. I think Gloucester is going to be one of these teams that every year there's kind of a team that emerges from seemingly nowhere and makes a run in their respective division. I think Gloucester could be one of those teams this year. I think this is a true toss-up. I think Fenwick's very good. Fenwick should be in the mix in Division 6. Tyler Conley, Dylan Patarelli, the really good players for this team. The quarterback, he had a breakout game last week on a win over Bishop Stang. So I think Fenwick might be more balanced. So I'll go with the Crusaders here. Should be good. Again, it seems like the theme this week is physicality, and I think we're going to see it in this matchup as well. But I'm going to lean towards the Crusaders, 24-21.
All right, next up we have an intriguing Division 4 matchup, Holliston at Canton. Two teams that could potentially see each other again down the road. Canton the last couple of years has been one of the best programs in the division. They are poised to potentially make a run to Gillette. Holliston, we know the pedigree there, both from when Todd Kiley was there and now with Mike Uroff there. Should be a really good matchup. Canton has been impressive so far. Tyler, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I think Canton's doing their best to survive some key injuries and continue to roll along. They've won in different fashions. They beat a really a good Franklin program, 34-0, a team that's 3 divisions higher than them. And then being able to beat a good Bedford team. I think Bedford's a good team this year, and to be able to beat them in a low-scoring game, it's impressive. It shows that Canton's able to win in multiple ways. And I think if you're going to be a champion or if you're going to make a run, you need to be able to win in multiple ways. So Canton's proved they can do that. It's another test before they get into the grind of the Hockomock League, where they'll have to play they still have to play Foxborough, North Attleboro, Mansfield before we get to the playoffs. So they're going to be really battle tested. They're going to be a high seed due to the strength of their schedule. I think the Bulldogs find a way to win again here. I'm fully convinced that this is one of the better teams in Division 4.
Yeah, I think Canton right now, starting off the season with 34-0 over Franklin, 48-27 over Norwood. Those are 2 good wins. And then last week, shutting out Bedford in a defensive game, low-scoring game. So they won 2 different styles. Coming home, I think Canton's going to move forward. I think they'll just have a little bit much for Holliston.
All right, we go north of the city again. This time we have Pentucket at Amesbury. Mukala, I'm going to start with you. Your thoughts on this one? How do you see it playing out? Pentucket beating Medway last week. Amesbury's been really good the last couple of years, a program that has made some noise. Should be a pretty good game between 2 programs that are programs to keep an eye on in their respective divisions.
Yeah, battle of undefeated teams between these 2 teams. This one, I was looking. I'm not sure who to go with, but I think Amesbury. When I'm not sure, I just go with the home team. So I think Amesbury, they're home, got to take advantage of the home crowd. I think they're going to come out with the win in this one.
Yeah, I think Pentucket and Medway. That was a kind of a fun game last week between a team from the Tri-Valley, team from the Cape Ann. Again, 2 teams that could see each other. I think they're both going to be Division 6 playoff teams. Amesbury, though, they have that unique home field for one, but they also, they run the wing T on offense, and teams just really struggle with that. They made it to the Division 7 Super Bowl a couple years ago. The running game and the ability to control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, I think is going to be the difference in this one. I like Amesbury by a touchdown.
All right, next up we have the Battle of Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury at St. John's. Shrewsbury, bragging rights on the line. Tyler, your thoughts on this one? Can Shrewsbury beat St. John's of Shrewsbury and make a statement for public schools in the city?
I think they can. And I think they're going to win this one. They beat Hudson close. I think people are kind of down on Hudson, given that they graduated Attaway and all those other pieces from last year. But Hudson's still a very good team, and then they beat up Haverhill. So I think Shrewsbury's better at this point in time. St. John's, they've kind of had a rough go of it in recent years, and that's continued in the early part of this season. I think Shrewsbury's a better team right now. Colonials win.
Yeah, this Shrewsbury head coach, he just got his 100th career victory, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations to him on that. And I think that Shrewsbury is going to win this one. I think St. John's Prep still got ways to. I mean, St. John's Prep, St. John's Shrewsbury still got ways to go, but I'm agree with Tyler. I think Shrewsbury is going to win this one.
All right, next up we have Archbishop Williams at Ashland in a battle of two teams that are 3-0. Of course, Archbishop Williams is getting a lot of attention with freshman phenom Hudson Garrity at quarterback. They also have another dynamic freshman in Ethan O'Connell at running back, as well as Zay Wiggum. This is a team that and a program that has not done much for a long time, but Archie's is back. Big part of that is Hudson Garrity. He is off to a tremendous start. Obviously, Garrity coming in with a lot of hype nationally. He's one of the top recruits in his class of 2029. But I think at the end of the day here, when you look at this, Ashland is a program that has flown under the radar. They may just be the favorite in the TVL on the big side. Should be a fun matchup. This will really be a stiff test for Garrity and company going on the road, having to go up to Ashland to play these guys. Clocker's always tough at home. Tyler, I think this is one of the more intriguing matchups of the weekend, and we're going to find out a lot about this Archbishop Williams team.
We are. Yeah, I think we're going to find out a lot about both teams because I don't really know what to expect from either. Neither team has lost to this point. Haven't played like overly grueling schedules to this point, but they've handled business and done what they've had to do. So it's a good tune-up for both teams, I think. I think I lean Archie's here. I just like the skill here. Of course, Garrity. Zay Wiggum was on CM last year, so he's a CM transfer, and he's made some plays for them in the early going. So I think the Bishops are kind of, again, they're sort of, I really don't know. Like, there's a lot of hype around the program and hype that I don't ever remember being around the Archie's program, and that's largely due to Garrity and just his ability to make plays already at the varsity level as a freshman. He's a very impressive player, and I think he gets it done here again for Archie's.
Yeah, this is a good test for Garrity and those boys. I think going on the road, this is gonna be a good test for them because playoff time they might have to play in an environment like they will be playing this Friday. So, but Garrity so far he's shown the poise, he's shown the playmaking. He's very under control as a young quarterback. Doesn't make too many mistakes. He's very solid with the football. So I think Garrity's going to help. Garrity's going to find a way to help lead his team to victory in this one.
Yeah, should be a really good matchup. All right, let's head over to the ISL. Of course, NEPSAC with realignment this offseason is blessing us with some unbelievable matchups early in the season. A couple of weeks ago, we had Williston, Northampton, and Tabor. We have a big ISL matchup on Friday night. Our Charlie Adams is slated to be there for that one. Milton Academy at Tabor. Tabor, of course, impressive first 2 weeks of the season. They beat Williston. They beat Govs last week. Milton Academy, very impressive 34-14 win over St. Seb's last week. Huge matchup here. This will be a stiff test for Tabor Academy. But here's the thing. What we've seen so far from Jeff Moore's squad, they look like the best team in New England. They have played like it thus far. This will be a tough test for the Mustangs. Tyler, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think this is the best ISL game of the year. Listen, Tabor's the best team in New England, in my opinion. I think they're one of the better teams in the Northeast. They're very talented. They're well coached. I think they're going to win. I think this is probably the biggest challenge they get before a bowl game. But I like Tabor here.
Oh man, I might actually be at this game. I'm still debating if I'm going to take that long drive down there, but I might be at this game. Talent all around in this one between both teams, and then we got the quarterbacks, with Bork and Kieran. So this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna go with Milton Academy pulling off the upset in this one. I think this will be a big one.
Yeah. The quarterback matchup is fantastic. I mean, you mentioned Quran McNeil, you mentioned Peter Bork. McNeil's committed to Buffalo. Bork, of course, is committed to Michigan. It's just a fantastic matchup. Another fantastic matchup is John Hooley and Avon Old Farms. The Winged Beavers come north on Saturday to take on Mike Willie and his BBNN nights in what should be a fantastic, fantastic matchup. Avon Old Farms loaded once again. John's done a tremendous job assembling talent there. Mike, done a great job at BB&N, bringing in some new faces to complement what they have returning, most notably quarterback Damon Taylor. This is going to be another terrific matchup. We'll be covering that game for you on Saturday as well. But I'm looking forward to this one because I think when you look at these two teams, you know, the attention is squarely on Tabor, and rightfully so. But this and Phillips Exeter should be in the conversation as well for one of the best teams in New England, but so should Avon Old Farms. This is going to be a really stiff test for Mike Willie's squad. Tyler?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, so it's hard to bet against Mike Willie. I'm going to do that here, though. I'm going to go with Avon Old Farms. I think they're going to be better early in the season. Now, maybe in 6 weeks from now, maybe that's not the case. But I think right now they're better. First game post Bo McCormick, so kind of we'll see how that goes. Again, you mentioned that Damon Taylor, so they're in good hands offensively still. But Bo McCormick was so important to what they did and being one of the best players in New England. So I think as of right now, Avon Old Farms is the better team and they win this game. But again, in October, maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, this is another one of those pick 'em games. Talent all around too. We just talk about Damon Taylor. They got Vincent Snooning. There's a lot of guys on this team for BB&N that are really good playmakers. Avon Old Farms as well should be a good one. I'm gonna go with the home team with this one. I just think Coach Wiley is gonna find a way to get his guys to win this one.
Yeah, it's tough to pick against this Avon Old Farms team. I mean, they're loaded. You got Boston College commit Mason Leak at defensive end. You've got the Olsons. Your boy, Tyler, Johnny Ginger, who was playing wide receiver for them. I mean, John Hooley just does such a great job of assembling talent year in and year out. I think BB&N can hang with them, but I just think this Avon offense is too much. They could score, and they could score in a hurry. And then that defense can rush the passer. They can get after it. So it's hard for me to pick against Avon Old Farms as well. Sorry, Coach Willie. Respect you in the job you've done there. You're a friend of the New England Football Journal, but Avon Old Farms is legit. It's going to be a good test for both teams, either way you look at it. All right, let's do a quick tour around New England, Connecticut. One of the big games of the weekend is Bunnell at New Canaan. Bunnell coming off an impressive 21-0 win over Massac last week. New Canaan, number one team in our Connecticut poll. They continue to set the pace in Connecticut. They are the standard. Andrew Esposito and company off to a great start there. If I'm picking this one, I'm going to go New Canaan. I think Bunnell turned a lot of heads with that big win over Massac last week. But I think New Canaan is at another level, different animal. Give me the Rams here. I like New Canaan in this one. It should be a good matchup. I think that Bunnell will be able to hang with New Canaan, but I think the cream rises. I think Esposito and company get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bunnell is probably in like the 8 to 10 range for best team in Connecticut. I think New Canaan, clear best team in Connecticut as of right now. New Canaan wins.
I'm going to go New Canaan all around. They're going to run away with this one.
Yeah, we got a big game up in Maine between Noble and Bonnie Eagle. Noble's been impressive so far. Bonnie Eagle, of course, one of the established programs up in Maine. Should be a really good game. Noble will have their hands full. They got to go on the road to Bonnie Eagle. But I think this Noble football team has kind of flown under the radar the last couple of years. It's a good program. I like Noble in this one. I think that they go into Bonnie Eagle and get it done.
I think they're one of the better teams in Maine. I just don't know if they're quite ready to go to Bonnie Eagle and win. I've got Bonnie Eagle winning this one, but it should be a competitive game.
I'm going to go with Noble. I'll go with Noble. Get the road win.
All right, we're going to go up to the Granite State, and one of the best rivalry games of the season taking place. We'll be there for that one. Londonderry at Pinkerton. Of course, Pinkerton is your reigning Division I state champions. Brian O'Reilly winning his first championship since 2012. One of the best coaches in New England. He's done a great job with that Astros program. Jimmy Lazan brings his Lancers in. They had their hands full with Pinkerton last year, but this is a rivalry game. One of the best rivalries in New England. Should be another good one. Londonderry, of course, travels down to Duxbury next week, so they won't get caught looking ahead. Two tough road games coming up for the Lancers. But I got to tell you, it's tough to pick against Pinkerton, man. I'm going with the Astros here at home.
Yeah, I think as of right now in New Hampshire, it feels like a toss-up to me between Pinkerton and Bedford as the best team in the state. Right now, I think Pinkerton's better than Londonderry. Londonderry, they're 1-2 right now. If they fall to 1-3 going to Duxbury, that's just something you're not accustomed to seeing from Londonderry. I think they'll figure it out and be in the mix in the end. But as of right now, Pinkerton's a better team. Give me the Astros.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pinkerton as well. They're just defending champs, gonna play well at home.
All right, next up we go down to the Ocean State. Of course, we talked about Reading at Cumberland earlier. Got another really good matchup. The high-flying Westerly Bulldogs coming off a blowout win over East Providence last week, travel down to Portsmouth. This is an offense versus defense type of matchup from the standpoint that you have an elite-level offense with Landon Husero and the Bulldogs taking on a really good defense in Portsmouth. Patriots have been playing some pretty good defense so far. I got to tell you, man, I think Westerly got a lot of people's attention in that Scituate game a couple weeks ago. And I said to people then, if you don't believe now in Landon Husero and the Bulldogs, you get your popcorn ready. This is one of the best offenses in New England, and I think they proved that last week. I think they do it again. I think they take care of business over Portsmouth.
I agree. The offense is very impressive. Husero is one of the better quarterbacks in New England. I think is it crazy to say that Westerly is the best public school in Rhode Island right now? I think they're
either
right in
them
that
or
mix,
North Kingstown.
This year.
I think we got to give some flowers to that North Kingstown program. That they're pretty good. Senior laden skill group. I think they're pretty good. So you can make a case for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that I think they're right in that mix. The offense is explosive. That Portsmouth defense has played great to this point, but this is a different beast here. I like Westerly.
I like Westerly as well. I mean, I'm still looking back at that game against Scituate. They played Scituate tough up here. That was the one game I got a glimpse of. So I think Westerly is going to come out with the win in this one.
And finally, we go up to Vermont. Burton at Essex. Burton going toe-to-toe with Rutland a couple of weeks ago. Bulldogs trying to get back on track after a tough season last year. They're a program that when they're right, they're a factor in Division I. You're starting to see that they're back on track. I like Burton in this one.
I struggle with this one. I've kind of gone back and forth a few times. I lean Essex, but again, toss-up. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Burton wins.
I'm going to go with Essex at this one. I think they'll come out with the win in this one.
All right. Final thoughts here, gentlemen, before we wrap it up. Again, another great slate of games, including a couple of intriguing interstate matchups.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're really getting into it now. It's last week of September already, so most teams, this is their fourth game. Some teams took the early season bye, but it's another great week of football. John, I know you're a fan of like this late September window here because it's not too cold yet. So
I am.
The air is still mild and you can go out and enjoy games without like 17 layers on. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, just go out there and enjoy some games.
Yeah, if you like quarterback matchups, there's some good quarterback matchups this week's slate. So a lot of intriguing matchups throughout the state. So definitely looking forward to some of these games this week.
Yeah, and again, these knapsack matchups, man, they've got me juiced up. I love the Milton Academy Tabor matchup, but that Avon Old Farms BB&N matchup, that was one of the ones I circled early on when they realigned this offseason. It should be a fantastic, fantastic matchup between two programs that are so well coached. Big fan of John Hooley, big fan of Mike Willie. It's going to be fun. All right, gentlemen, great job as always. Let's do this again next week.
All righty.
All right.
Let's do it.
Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the High School Preview Show. For Tyler Amaral and Mukala Kabongo, I'm John Sarianides. Get out there and enjoy the games. And until next week, peace.